Hi there, and welcome to the first practical exercise in this course. So how does the product manager derive the product backlog from a product vision? Unfortunately, Scrum doesn't provide much guidance on building your initial product backlog or defining your minimum viable product. So we'll have to rely on other approaches developed to fill this gap in the Scrum framework. And if your focus is just learning pure Scrum, or you've inherited a product backlog and just want to get started quickly, then you could skip this for now and come back to it later. But if you're building a product from inception or working at a startup, then this exercise should be useful to you. Okay, so let's begin. Now, every product initiative begins with an idea or a hypothesis, and there are two parts to the hypothesis. Firstly, does a problem exist? So prior to creating the backlog, we need to ensure that the solution will be valuable to users. And the second hypothesis is, can we solve that problem? Is the solution feasible? That is, can we actually build and deliver that solution? And here we need to consider things like team skill sets, technology constraints, costs, and the legality of the solution. And finally, once those two questions have been answered, we need to design a product that is usable or user-friendly. So the goal of the backlog creation process is to build a solution ultimately that sits in the intersection of this Venn diagram. So what's a good way to go from vision to product backlog? Well, firstly, we need to bring the right people into the room because the product owner won't be able to do it alone. So let's go back to our Venn diagram. And if this is our goal, we need to bring in the right people who can ensure that the solution will consider all three of these objectives. And so that would be the product owner, who is the voice of the customer, an engineering lead who can ensure that what is designed can be built, and someone who understands user experience design. And so that is a UX or user experience / visual designer / interaction designer. And for this exercise, we'll simply have to assume that you have all three skill sets. Now, we need to decompose that high-level product vision, and we'll use an approach that is user-centric. That is, we'll brainstorm our initial backlog around the user journey using an approach called user story mapping. And we'll use the output of that exercise to build our initial backlog. Okay, so we are now ready to begin the practical portion of this course. And to complete this part, you will need sticky notes of 3 colors, a marker, a long table or wall, or if you don't have these things or prefer to go digital, we can use the cardboardit.com service. And that is the service that I will use to demonstrate the story mapping process. But in fact, for brainstorming purposes, when you're working with a team, the story mapping wall or table is a better approach. And you could, if you wish, simply watch me as I go through the exercise. But to get the most benefit from these practical sessions, I suggest that you also complete the activity on your end. But you don't have to work on the home slice product. You could work on your own product idea. Or if you don't have an idea and you want to try something different, you could pick your favorite app. Simply rewind the clock to a time when the product was just an idea in someone's head, and imagine that you were the product manager tasked with building that product. So pause the video here if you wish and think about the product that you want to work on. And because each practical section builds on the previous one, the product you pick now will be the one that you'll work with throughout the course. Okay, so did you pick a product? Are you ready? Let's go. Now, user story mapping is broken into 4 steps. So let's start on step 1. So step 1 is to frame the idea from a business perspective. And what we're doing here is getting everyone on the same page so that we all have the same understanding of why we're building the product. And you can get through step 1 by downloading and completing the product vision board, which was developed by Roman Pichler. And you can get a copy of this from gapsquad.com/scrum. In fact, all the material that you'll need to download for this course is available from this URL. So let's take a look at the product vision board. So here is the product vision board that was developed by Malik, working with Tracy, the founder, and let's take a look at it. So it starts at the top with the vision, which asks the question, why are you creating the product? And in the case of Home Slice, it is to make home sharing effortless. And then you look at the target group. So who are you targeting with the product? And here we are targeting home seekers, and the home seeker is the millennial living in the US in metro areas. And then also targeting the homeowner, that is the person offering the property. And we're targeting a fairly specific group here, and that is empty nesters with homes in the metro area. And an empty nester is essentially someone who has a family, but the kids grew up and have left the house, and so they have rooms available that they could rent out. In terms of the problem that is being solved, Home Slice is offering a service that makes it easy to find and manage share homes. And under product, we'll look at what makes your product unique, what makes it stand out from the competition. So Home Slice has decided to go with a mobile first approach. So they'll build an app that firstly allows tenants and share homes to find each other through an online marketplace. That also includes a matching service, so both sides of the marketplace can specify what they're looking for, and the service itself will then match and make recommendations. There's also an appointment booking service planned, and both tenants and property owners can leave reviews. And the second aspect of the app planned is the actual management of share homes. So both the tenant as well as the owner of the property can create house rules and share tasks with other tenants and set reminders and split bills. And then the last section here looks at business goals. That is, how will the product benefit the company? So in this case, our revenue source will be subscription-based pricing that is charged only to the homeowner and is not charged to the tenant. So the service will be free for tenants. So this is, of course, an online marketplace, and there's two sides to the marketplace. And the decision has been made to charge the side that most benefits from the service and also that is able to afford the service. So the plan here is to use tiered pricing that will allow people to choose what level of service they want, something along the lines of silver, gold, and platinum. So as you can see, the product vision board kind of is a place to start to take your high level vision and break it down into more detail. And these ideas can evolve over time as you learn more, but you need a starting point. And so this gives you that good starting point to ensure that all the people participating in the brainstorming session are on the same page in terms of why we are building this product. And now it's your turn. Pause the video here and spend about 5 minutes to build out your product vision board. Okay, are you done with part 1? How'd you go? The aim of framing the journey is really answering the question of what, who, and why. So what is the problem we're trying to solve? Who are we solving this for? And why should we do this? That is, how will this benefit us or our organization? So once you've framed the journey, the next step is to really build out the backbone. That is to consider a single user type initially. So let's focus on the home seeker, and then to think about the high level goals of this user. So imagine a typical day in the user's life with your new product, and then map out the steps that they take as they complete their journey through the product. So let's go ahead and build out the backbone for our journey. And for demonstration purposes, I'm going to use the cardboardit.com service. So here I am on their homepage, and it has a free trial option. So I'll click on try it for free and complete the registration process, and that then takes you here to the home page. And from here, click on new board and choose the user story map option and click on continue. And I'll name this board Home Slice. So to build out our initial backbone, think about the very high level steps that the user will take as they journey through our website. So let's first start with the home seeker. So I'm going to use the blue card. And the first thing at a high level is to find a home. So that's a very broad category, and that covers everything from searching, using filters, setting up your preferences, and narrowing down to the home that you like. And once you find a home, the next step would be to book a home, and finally stay in home. And that card covers everything to do with making your stay at the share home comfortable. So that is our high-level backbone, and now we can add the details, which is step number 3. And so the next step is to build out the body. And what we're doing here is sort of like taking a big boulder, that is your product vision, and then splitting that into a couple of pieces, which is the backbone, and then splitting those further down, and that'll be your epic or your activities, and then breaking that out further to get your user stories. So breaking it down until it's a manageable size. So the next level down, I will use yellow cards. And so to find a home that is right for you, you would need to search for homes, and you would also need to then visit the home to inspect it. So I'll go down to that level of detail, and this interface, as you can see, is really straightforward. It's just drag and drop. So I'll move the other 2 cards to the right, and then under book a home, I'll add a couple of additional cards, sign lease, and make initial payment. And now I'm just gonna zoom out a bit so you can see everything. And then under stay in home, you would first need to move into the house. And once you move in, you would need to be able to manage your stay there. And you would then also need to be able to eventually move out. So that is the next level of detail down. And this is called an activity. In Scrum terms, this would be at the epic level, but if you're not familiar with epics, don't worry about it. We'll cover that in later topics. But for now, what we're going to be doing is continuing to build out the body by going down to the next level of detail, which are the user stories. So I'm going to use white cards here for user stories. So what kind of functionality would I need to be able to search for a home? Well, I would need to be able to maybe filter by location to find the homes that are near my desired location, and filter by price. I might want a search box that lets me filter by keywords or uses natural language processing. And I also would want to be able to see the property details or the property profile page. And since I'd be sharing the home with others, I would like to be able to view the tenant profiles. So who are the other people living in the house? And so this is really a brainstorming exercise with the other 2 counterparts. And there is really no end to this exercise. You can continue to brainstorm and just keep building up and getting more and more stories. And that's okay, because at this point, we're trying to be as inclusive as possible and just do some blue sky thinking and just get all the ideas in one place. And then later on, we will prioritize everything. So I think I have enough under search homes. And what I'll do next is visit homes. So to visit a home, the seeker needs to contact the owner to arrange an appointment. But at this point, we might require them to register on the site. That way we can get their details. And after registering, they can then contact the owner and confirm the availability of the room and then book an appointment. And once you book an appointment, of course, things could change and you may want to cancel or change your appointment. And on the day of the appointment, you might want to get an appointment reminder. And of course, we could continue to brainstorm and include things like add the appointment to a calendar, but we're running out of space, so I'll just stop there. So on to the next one, which is to sign the lease. So before you can sign it, you would want to probably read the lease. So view lease terms, and then complete it online and submit it. And a lease has to be signed by both parties, so we would need a facility for receiving the co-signed lease. And then at this point, we might require the user to create a tenant profile. And now I think you've got a pretty good sense of how this works. So why don't we hit fast forward? And also keep in mind that the storyboard creation process works best when you have the product owner, an engineer, and someone with the user experience background working together based on their understanding of the user persona, which in this case is the home seeker, that is the millennial home seeker who wishes to live in the metro area in the US. So all of this brainstorming should be informed by a good understanding of that user. That is, what do they need and what would they like to see in the product. Okay, so if you haven't already, this is a great place to pause and build out the body for your storyboard. After which we can move on to the fourth and final step. And so the final step in the user story mapping process is to slice out your minimum viable product. So let's take a look at our story map to see how we can do that. So let's start with the term MVP. So what is an MVP? Well, it is the minimum set of functionality that we need to include in a product to satisfy this user persona. So what we need to do is to find a way to prioritize from this set of user stories, the ones that are essential to our user persona. So the first thing we can do is to prioritize each of these verticals. So for the search homes epic, which of these stories are the most important? So as a user, I think filter by location is important and filter by price are both quite essential. Filter by keywords may not be as important, and you do need to be able to view property profiles, so we can bring that up. And viewing tenant profiles, while it's nice to be able to do that, that might not be essential in an MVP. And then we would do the same thing with each of these verticals. So in order to visit a home, registering on site is important for us, so we'll keep that. You need to be able to contact the owner, you need to be able to book an appointment and cancel or change the appointment, but perhaps the get appointment reminder is a non-essential, nice to have. So what we need to do here is complete this exercise of prioritizing the stories for all these columns. And once we decide what is essential, we can then draw a line to separate all the work that we need to do to deliver our MVP product. So I can now move things up that I think are important. So cancel or change an appointment is necessary for the MVP release, but create tenant profile is not. For making an initial payment, you need to be able to view your payment instructions and pay by credit card, but pay by PayPal might not be as important. And so you can drag that one down, but view print email receipt and sending the bond to escrow might be essentials. So we can move those up. And then we may decide that the book the mover is a nice to have, so we can pull that one down. But the scheduling the move in and completing inspection report are both essentials. And then to manage your stay, view house rules, view cleaning roster, chat with other tenants. So the chat with other tenants sounds like a nice to have, so we can pull that down. But we may decide that setting up bill splitting and setting up auto pay for bills are essentials. And then finally for the move out, completing a room inspection report, scheduling inspection by the owner, and scheduling the move out are all essential. And then of course receiving the bond from the escrow is an essential story also. So this final fourth step is an exercise of prioritizing all the stories that you have brainstormed and then determining what is essential for delivering an MVP or a minimum viable product that would be acceptable to that user persona. Okay, so with that, we have come to the end of this exercise. But before we close off this tutorial, for the benefit of those students who decided to use post-it notes, I've also created a post-it note version of the home slice storyboard, and this is what it looks like. So the blue post-it notes are your backbone, the yellow the epics, and the green the user stories or activities, and the pink shows the user persona, which is the home seeker. And as you can see, I've posted on a whiteboard, and so I simply used a marker to draw the MVP release, and I've also drawn out release 1 and release 2. And we are just about at the end of section 1. I've included some free resources such as a glossary of terms, also for you to check out in the next lecture. The next section will focus on the product backlog and will also include an exercise that will be a continuation of the one that you've just completed, where we will take the user journey map that we've created and transform that into a workable product backlog that can be used for engaging a development team to build the minimum viable product. Thanks for persevering through this long lecture, and I look forward to seeing you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.